Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Michael J.
Which standard deck would you like to start on this week?
Are you talking about for this new Dominaria standard?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is hopping.
Yeah, so I guess, first of all, we gotta touch bases on this white-black, mostly white, basically nearly mono-white aggro decks, like Zan Syed won the Classic, this past weekend's Classic, with this take on this is a pretty popular way to do it. Kind of just this curve deck leveraging Toolcraft exemplar, not curve, but like just it's almost like a descendant. It's like a hybrid of vehicles, and then like some sort of a big white mid-range like deck. It's almost, I guess it's sort of a descendant of vehicles.
It's weird to me because when I first saw the label on Zanside's deck, White Black Aggro, I was expecting to see that kind of white swarm deck with Scrap Heap Scrounger. And this is like it has a lot of the cards in common, to be fair, but it's like a completely different strategy. Right? So, if we run through this...
This is not the Scrap Heap Scroungerist Scrap Heap Scrounger deck either.
I mean, I think it scrounges a little, It's only got 12
other creatures that can get the Scrounger back.
So, let's just run through this. Like, so the creatures, there's 16 creatures, right? 4 Scroungers, 2 Walking Ballistas, 4 Toolcraft Exemplars, which, to be fair, go quite well with those Scrap Heap Scroungers and Walking Ballistas. 2 Lyra Dawnbringers, all right, I'm in. And then 4 Knight of Malice. That's the one that I'm, raising my eyebrow to. It's a 2-drop, but completely the opposite color. We were talking about that white-black deck last week. The black splash for Scrap Heap Scrounger was essentially free. This is like actual black card you might play on turn 2. And then the weird thing in my mind is he's got a couple of cast outs, okay. History Benalia, probably an awesome card in this deck. Right? 3 Fatal Push.
Well, History of Benalia, by the way, before we just breeze past that one, I think History of Benalia is a defining card of this format, and we should be seeing a lot of it. To say this is that it's fine in this deck, in some ways it reminds me of saying Lingering Souls is fine in this deck. It's is Lingering Souls fine in this deck that can cast it?
Well, when you put it that way, Lingering Souls is what, 3 mana for 2 power and then another 2 mana for 2 more power, so that's 5 mana total for 4 power in tokens, and this is 3 mana for 4 power. You just got to wait a second.
And then you hit for 2 and then you hit for 10.
Yeah, this card's very good. Now, the thing that's weird to me, though, is in the last spell, in the non-Planeswalker spells, is Thopter Arrest, right? So I'm just like, 1 Thopter Arrest?
No, that's good.
It seems like an odd choice.
No, I actually like that. Yeah. Oh, I actually like that.
Yeah?
I like the Thopter Arrest. The one I don't like, I don't know. I think you can use Thopter Arrest. I don't think it's clear. I just think you have to be careful. I don't think this deck wants to play too many 4s. And I love 4 Karn in this deck. And I think that you play Walking Ballista as a 2 more often than you might imagine. So, I don't want to just load up with 4 mana exile effects. Now, I think there's
the 2 mana exile effect, which is not in the deck or sideboard.
Yeah, but this deck is a lot more aggressive. You can play Seal Away or not, but he's got Fatal Push instead, which clears away the blockers. I'm just saying that, I don't think you want to play all cast outs and Ixalan's bindings. You can, but I just don't think you want to play that many of them, and it starts getting a little crowded at the 4 spot. I don't mind 2 cast out, 1 Thopter Arrest. Now, personally, I don't mind playing Ixalan's binding instead of just these, But I think this is... I don't mind 1 Thopter Arrest.
Yeah, well... Yeah,
I don't love it. But, look at his lack of 3s. He's got 4 History of Benalia, 2 Gideon.
Yeah, he could play one of his come into play tap lands or something. I don't know. I guess he doesn't.
You could just play the Marshal and cut black.
Yeah, it's the deck. Look, we're talking about a distinctly different deck, right? This is not the White Swarm deck, but to get back, because he's
no, I'm not talking about the White Swarm deck. I'm saying just cut Knight of Malice and Fatal Push, and instead play like the Marshal and one other cheap card. Done.
So he's got 2 Gideon and 4 Karn. Now you say that you love Karn in this deck.
No, I don't. I love History of Benalia.
I thought you said you loved Karn in this deck.
No. It's fine. I love History of Benalia.
Well, I love History of Benalia too. But what I'm looking at here is like, I feel like one of the big payoffs to playing like these aggressive Toolcraft Exemplar, Ballista, Scrounger, Heart of Kieran setups is to play Unlicensed Disintegration.
You always think that, though.
I mean, it's the best card in that strategy, and that's the one that he cut.
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about something different because his mana base. I agree. I think if you're gonna like actually play the black spells, like I think that once you're like playing Fatal Push, I'd rather have Unlicensed Disintegration in there than not. I'm just talking about if you play the Marshal version and cut all these swamps and if near Deadlands, then you're getting somewhere. Like, I want to just play mono white.
I can totally respect that. I think that...
Well, not really. Really, I just want to play Lich's Mastery.
Well, so here's the thing. What are you really getting from Knight of Malice is my first question. Like, I don't even know...
It's a good card.
Yeah, is it better than the white one?
Yeah, definitely.
Why?
It keys off your own white permanents. All your permanents are white. So, like, when you play Knight of Malice, it's a 3/2 hexproof from white first striker. If you were to play the white one, it would be a 2/2 hexproof from black first striker.
All right. I can respect that. It still seems like a weird card to actually pay black mana for. It's like, the Scrounger's one thing. It's just free. But, like...
No, I don't know. I think, like, so for instance, I agree, I don't want to add black mana to support it. But let's suppose that you just were, like, let's suppose that he really likes Fatal Push, and he wants these duresses out of the sideboard. If you're already playing the black mana, I think Knight of Malice is, like, at least a consideration. Like, when everything is going well, it's better than Watchwolf by a lot. Right? Like, it's like a fleeced main lion on its good day.
I mean...
It's just, the thing I don't like about it, outside of the mana, is that it's unreliable. It's unreliable.
An unreliable cast? Because it's so...
No. Let's say even if you're casting it. Like, he's got 14 black sources in here. That's not that bad. I'm saying that, like, what sucks is if you're in the middle of combat, like, let's say your Knight of Malice is about to tangle with a 3/3.
Uh-oh.
Well, if the other person Vraska's contempts the Gideon that was, like, powering this up or whatever, you know, if they're 3/3...
Shocks your Exemplar or whatever, right?
But then they just get you. And I think that between that and how unreliable Knight of Malice is for crewing the Heart of Kieran.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Heart of Kieran and Knight of Malice just doesn't line up as well as you would like.
I mean, it does if you win the lottery, right? If you're like...
No. I'm not saying it doesn't line up at all. You know, it lines up okay. I'm just saying it doesn't line up as well as you would like. Well, you know, like, it lines up half the time.
Well, I'm saying is that if all you really want... I mean,
when you already have the Exemplar, that's not the time you need the help crewing the Heart.
So here, I'm just going to be, like, completely, you know, mean to the Knight of Malice for a second. Is hexproof from white so much more valuable than indestructible?
Yeah. I am actually... Hexproof from white is dope. No, hexproof from white is dope.
Indestructible.
So first of all, Gideon of the... Indestructible?
Yeah, like, what are you talking about? Like, there are other cards that you can play for a similar casting cost that'll get you some outsized power for on offense that don't require a second caller.
Wait, what are you talking about?
Doesn't the Adanto do that?
Indestructible. If you're talking about the 1/1 that you can, like, pay life?
Yeah.
That sounds so much worse.
Yeah?
Even if your deck had... Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's so much worse.
I think that... I mean, I don't know.
pay
The mana
life.
bend is doing it for me.
Set that aside. You don't have to play anything besides. I'm just talking about Knight of Malice. Once you actually have the black mana, Knight of Malice is like, it's legitimately good. The hexproof from white, it's not great. It's good, though. The hexproof from white matters. It matters with getting into the trials, Thopter Arrest, Cast Out, Ixalan's Binding, Seal Away, all that stuff, And, occasionally Teferi. The big thing, though, is the ability to just keep trucking through opponents' Gideons. That's not nothing.
Yeah, I mean, and, Zan did well with it, right? So...
lots of people have. This version is fairly popular. I'm skeptical.
I'm very skeptical. That's just not the card that it's not that the card is bad. Like, I think you've established that once you have it, it's fine. Once you have the mana, it's fine. It's the point in the curve that it's on that bothers me. So I just think it's unreliable on that turn. Like, if you're saying, all right, my 5-drop is black, right? Instead of, like, he's got a white 5-drop here. If my 5-drop is black, maybe I have a different idea about it. But, like, my 2-drop being black, I don't know. It's bugging me. And he's got 3 swamps.
I don't know. You're not counting. He's got 14 black sources.
Yeah, he has 3 swamps, and he has Ifnir Deadlands. Like, these are cards I have in my deck.
I don't know. Maybe you do, though. It's not like he needs white mana that much. He's just going to cast his History of Benalia and Gideon on 3.
How about his Exemplar on 1?
Yeah. Only 12 sources. I guess 13 sources for Exemplar on 1, and only 17 sources for Gideon and History of Benalia on 3. That's not bad, but, like, I wouldn't hate it if it was a little better.
I mean, it's not that it's not bad or a little better. It's just like, I just don't think Knight of Malice is a good enough payoff to have Ifnir Deadlands in my deck. That's the thing. Like, I would never, ever want to tap an Ifnir Deadlands on turn 2 in the dark on turn 2 to play a 2-drop. It's just, that might be a 2/2, right? It just seems horrible to me.
Dude, you're sitting here advocating a Danto Vanguard.
Yeah, a Danto Vanguard I play life sometimes.
There's a different Scrap Heap Scrounger Walking Ballista deck that finished second in that same event. Michael Yu, a red splash unlicensed disintegration, but like it's like just a big red deck. It's not even like vehicles at all. He's got 2 Hardicarans, but like. So, Inventor's Apprentice and Bomat Courier at 1, Walking Ballista and Scrap Heap Scrounger at 2, as well as a couple Hardicarans, Goblin Chain Whirler at 3, Chandra and Rekindling Phoenix at 4, and Karn, 1 Karn. And then 3 Abrades and 4 Unlicensed Disintegration for his interaction, in addition to those 24 land.
Love this deck.
And as usual, as these decks always do, in his sideboard, he's got a little bit of go bigger. He's got a lot of like specific forms of interaction, like some discard and some removal, and then he's got an extra land and some 5s.
So the things
this is totally your type of deck.
Yeah, the main thing that I don't like about this deck is the Rekindling Phoenix in the main.
Really?
Yeah, it's got 3 Rekindling Phoenix and 1 Karn. I think I'd go heavier on the Karn. My main reason...
I would go heavier on the Karn.
Like, I think Phoenix is just like... Not that it's bad, but like... I think Phoenix is losing a lot of value relative to where it was in the previous format, pre-Dominaria, because Seal Away is just so good against Rekindling Phoenix. And, like, I'm like, what do you have, Phoenix on D? Like, it's just not doing it for me. And Karn makes a lot of his other stuff better. I wouldn't even mind...
Yeah, but Karn isn't... I tell you what, let me just go ahead and grant you Karn should be step 1. So let's talk about Chandra versus Rekindling Phoenix.
I'm down. If you're going to say play a 4th Chandra instead of one of those Phoenixes, or... No,
I'm saying play 4 Karns, and now you've got some room for some number of Chandras or Rekindling Phoenixes. I kind of like Rekindling Phoenix instead of Chandra.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I don't dislike that. I just think that like if you look at his sideboard, he like has the memo. There's only one Glorybringer in the sideboard. Like I think that that's literally like, oh, I got the memo. Okay, yeah, these big red flyers aren't as good as they were a month ago. But like, so I would be, at the 5 spot, I'd be heavier on Angrath, heavier on Sky Sovereign. I think he could just go big with like early game like Spyglass and Treasure Map, like a Braid and Defeat, and just like kill stuff, and then just be like, all right, I'm spreading my Planeswalkers across the battlefield, and impacting the game with like maybe still get like some offense in with the Inventor's Apprentice and Scrapheap Scrounger, but like
dude, Rekindling Phoenix on D. Somebody's got to block the aggro cards.
Oh, I mean, Phoenix on D is potentially a compelling man. I mean, I'll grant you that. I just think that I think that it's just lost quite a step from the previous format, right? Like this card used to be.
It's lost a little.
Pretty hard to contain.
I'll give you that. It's lost a little.
Plus, especially, I think that.
Well, the bar is just higher as well. Karn really throws off what it means to cost 4.
Well, and then also you have to think about Vraska's Contempts are slightly more popular, I think, than they were a few minutes ago.
Maybe. I haven't seen that yet. You and I talk about all this Lich's Mastery stuff. Nobody's playing Vraska's Contempt.
Well,
like there was no Vraska's Contempt in the top 8.
Well, they should be.
I'm not saying they shouldn't be. They should be playing Lich's Mastery.
Yeah, but I like this strategy a lot. I think that this is, if I were going to play.
So wait, would you play a version that's a little closer to Aiden Breer's? The third place finisher played a version that had 4 Karn Scion of Urzas. I guess you would want 2 Chandras instead of the 2 Rekindling Phoenixes.
Yeah, I think.
But then he's got Aether Spirit Harvester. Although I guess he doesn't have the 5s main deck either. In fact, he doesn't have the 5s in the board.
I don't understand 3 Unlicensed Disintegration. I just don't understand it.
Card availability.
It's an uncommon that's a year old.
Well, I'm trying to come up with the most logical explanation.
I mean, if you're not going to play 4 Unlicensed Disintegration, just play Mono Red. Like, what else does he have that's drawing so deeply into black in his main deck?
Hold on. You have to admit, this deck with 3 Unlicensed Disintegrations is better than this deck without 3 Unlicensed Disintegrations, even if you were to make the mana better.
Yes, I agree. You should have at least 3 Unlicensed Disintegrations. The strategy is freaking awesome. Why are there not 4? Like, I would
play 8.
A 4th Unlicensed Disintegration than a first PNLR, which, by the way, turns on Unlicensed Disintegration.
Dude, I would literally play 8 Unlicensed Disintegrations right now.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, obviously, he's getting a lot of value out of having black in his deck, right? He's got Phyrexian Scriptures and Arguel's Bloodfast in the sideboard, which I think are both outstanding cards.
I agree. I love the Phyrexian Scriptures in this deck. The way he's using it. It's so smart. With the Courier, the Scrounger, the Ballista, the Pia token, the Karn token, the vehicles, everything's free rolling. Plus, you can stick the +1/+1 counter on Pia or the Inventor's Apprentice. And even if you have to kill your Phoenix, you can get it back.
It's awesome. It makes so much sense in this deck. And it's also not the kind of thing, unless your opponent, knows your deck list or whatever, that they're typically planning for out of an aggressive red deck.
If they play a lot of artifact kill, not all the artifact kill kills enchantments also. There's a lot of things that they could board in to kill all your vehicles and then just be stuck holding without the ability to actually interact with the scriptures.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, it's good. I think you're a big Doomfall fan. You like a Doomfall, I think.
I like it okay. It's stock. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it in this new format. It's okay.
If I have upwards of 12 plus black sources like Aiden does, and I'm playing Arguel's Bloodfast, I think I'd rather just have Duress than Doomfall, because those 2 cards go together pretty well if you have multiple black sources. I'm having a hard time imagining when I would side in Doomfall for the sacrifice a creature ability instead of the duress ability. So
hold on. No, it's not about instead. The thing that makes Doomfall so sweet is that you can just exile the Scarab God.
You trap the Scarab God regardless of where he is, right?
Well, it's not just trap it. It's like they play the Scarab God, and then they have to exile it to your Doomfall. Duress doesn't do anything like that.
Sometimes they do that, right? Like if you draw the Doomfall in the wrong time, like the Scarab God just lives. Like if you're gonna.
Oh, what do you mean? Why?
Because
I'm saying you use the target opponent exiles a creature he or she controls.
Oh, I apologize. I thought you were specifically saying it to make him kill the one that was in play, but sure.
I am. Target opponent exiles a creature he or she controls. I'm just saying, how many creatures do they have?
It just depends when you draw the Doomfall. Right? So I think if you're...
I bet it does it more often than Duress.
Well, yes. It's specifically for fighting the Scarab God, that's true. But if you have a deck that's willing to play BB2 for Phyrexian Scriptures, I think at least there'd be
2BB?
Yeah. You can make an argument that maybe you should try Vraska's Contempt. I don't know. Because
Vraska's Contempt doesn't discard cards the way Doomfall does.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't favor flexibility in sideboard cards for aggro decks. I think maybe elsewhere, but that's just not one of the things that scratches my itch. Maybe Aiden's right and I'm wrong on this one. I was thinking Argyll's Bloodfast to me is a very heavy-handed sort of hammer that you might use to overpower a control deck, and the amount of mana required to operate this card is just a little inconsistent with Doomfall in my mind, and that you just leave your mana open and then just Vraska's Contempt them, or you use those two cards in hand in hand with one another. But I guess that would cost you more slots, right? So he would have to give up something else that he likes in order to fit the duress, because it obviously does a different thing than just half of Doomfall, right? You'd have to play both cards.
What did you think of the What did you think of the winner of the team open? That was a top 8 with 4 copies of that white-black deck, that same Knight of Malice mono-white deck. But the first place finisher was actually James Liu with a green-black constrictor deck.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a pretty cool deck. I kind of like the cyclical nature of Standard, where constrictor decks were all the rage for a while and then kind of fell out. But now they have new life with Jade Light Ranger and Llanowar Elves, and I think kind of Adventurous Impulse. Do you think that Adventurous Impulse is helping here? Because
I think so. I really like Adventurous Impulse here.
It really increases the frequency that you'll have a second turn Constrictor, I think. And that this deck is different when it has a Constrictor on second turn than when it doesn't have one. To me, I think the missing card is probably Merfolk Branchwalker. I'd like to see Branchwalker in this deck, but...
I don't know. I don't mind. When you've already got 4 Walking Ballista, 4 Glint Sleeve Siphoner, 4 Winding Constrictor, plus you're already playing 4 Llanowar Elves... There's a limit to how many 2s you want to play.
Yeah, but you want it real. First of all, getting the card advantage is that's cool. But then just the +1/+1 counter bonuses, that's cool. I think there's
so many
decks, and I think it's even better here than it is in most decks.
I don't know. I don't think it's that great in very many decks. I would basically only play it in a Merfolk deck. Yeah, but I don't know. There's just too many other good 2s. It's okay. It's never that bad. It might be right to play. I think that it's I don't particularly like it anywhere, but I also don't hate it. If it's right, okay. If it's wrong, it's not by that much. It's probably wrong, but not by that much.
So you just consistently Glint Sleeve Siphoner in a deck.
No, I'm saying in his deck.
No, in this deck, you'd consistently like Glintstone Siphoner over Merfolk Branchwalker, despite the fact that it has pretty limited access to energy, right? Just 4 Aether Hubs, I think, are the only other energy card.
Oh, Glintstone Siphoner.
And I guess there's Harvester, but I don't think you don't really use it.
And Winding Constrictor, man.
That's true. That's a kind of a fake.
That's the whole point.
Well,
and then maybe Aether Sphere Harvester out of the board.
Yeah, but when you have those guys together, you're not using it to draw cards. Or maybe you are, but I don't think usually. I think you want the life more than the cards.
I'll tell you what. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I can just live with just one Brontodon main deck.
Well, it's not just one Brontodon. Remember, you do have Adventurous Impulse. Right, so...
Yeah, okay. 1.15 Brontodon's main deck.
He's got, 3 more in the sideboard, so he knows where his Brontodon is buttered, right? And that's in the sideboard, largely. I
know. It's probably right to not play a bunch, because once you're playing the Constrictor deck, you got to play these Rishgars and Jadelight Ranger, but, it doesn't mean you have to be happy about it.
So, on the subject of that, I want to, just look at a different green deck for a second. We look at back over to the Classic, look at Brandon Dempsey's 5th place green deck. All right, so we were talking about different strategies, white-based strategy, red-black strategy, really almost a mono-red deck that was like a Scrap Heap Scrounger in a deck that was colorful otherwise. So I actually think Scrap Heap Scrounger might be at, in one of these, red or white and then splash black decks, might be at its best in green specifically because of the Branchwalker. But why is there no Jadelight Ranger here? I want to just get all the Scrap Heap Scroungers for free. But he does have 3 Thrashing Brontodons in the main deck, so I thought maybe you like that a little bit better.
Yeah, it's okay. I still haven't wrapped my head all the way around these mono green decks, but at first blush, I guess I just am not sure that Ronus the Indomitable is maybe it's enough. Ronus does help power out Galta earlier, and Steel Leaf Champion is that's a thing. I'm a sucker for a Jadelight Ranger, but I guess this deck isn't grinding, it's trying to just bash.
Jadelight Ranger is a high power creature some of the time.
I really like how much Jadelight Ranger and Thrashing Brontodon can crew a Heart of Kiran.
So I think I'm with you. I love the concept of this deck, which is a little bit of exploration, getting to Scrap Heap Scrounger, and then just outstanding offensive creatures. But my questions around this deck, and it's weird because it was also the 6th place deck, almost the same deck, is that here's a deck that has good creatures, but they're not so much better than the white creatures, right? They're good, offensively good, a little card advantage, but the deck isn't crazy on card advantage, just a dedicated Explorer deck, or even a Black-Green Constrictor deck has got way more card advantage than this deck. But it's also, it doesn't have that many tricks. He's got 3 Blossoming Defense, and that's all of his tricks, right? So
yeah, real big stompy deck.
So if you were just up against a removal deck, right, they're just going to kill all your guys.
Yeah, you're going to be in rough shape. Other than Scrap Heap Scrounger, you're going to be in really rough shape against just any generic control deck.
Yeah, I think just 3 Ronus against some number of Vraska's Contempts or the white enchantments is just... This is just going to be a lot of green bodies in the graveyard. So,
or in the Exile Zone.
Yep, you're right, or in the Exile Zone. So I'm not sure, how do you bust through with this thing? You just always have to have consistent curve draws? Because
Lightcrafter's Bestiary is a great sideboard.
I agree, and I think with 4 Llanowar Elves, it's even better. I think I'd just go heavy on that card. You really want to draw it.
I think you're right. I think that's a good idea.
I don't know, at least 3, maybe. 4 is probably too many, but you really want to go first turn Llanowar Elves, get there.
I'm not 100% sure that 4 is too many. I really like that card. 3's probably right, but
Well, I think it's even better in this deck than it is in like a green-black Constrictor deck or like in the Teamer decks that used to play one copy, because this deck doesn't have other dimensions otherwise, right? So just adding the kind of the Jayme Dome dimension is actually very valuable. Like, they really appreciate a second game plan. We can do something with our mana other than just casting dudes.
Mm. Yep. So actually, the trend of you can play any Scrap Heap Scrounger or Walking Ballista deck you want kind of continues. What do you think about these green-white Legends decks? Like, for instance, he doesn't have Scrap Heap Scrounger. He's got, but he does have Walking Ballista. Jacob Hagen's 26th place, and actually, I think there were a couple others in the same event. But there was also one over in the Classic. But I think the use of Lyra Dawnbringer with Llanowar Elf. And here we see your Merfolk Branchwalker again. So there you go. But this time he's this build actually. So the main reason, the big thing is you get to play with Lyra and Llanowar Elf in the same deck. But then in terms of actual green-white goodness, you've got Chalet, Voice of Plenty, and Shanna, Sissy's Legacy. And Jacob actually playing with Karn, Cyan of Urza, makes me wonder why more of these green decks don't play Karn.
Oh, I mean, just friends with Karn. He's got Avia Pashery. Am I saying that right? Avia Pashery Sage Lifecrafter as a 1-drop, which is a pretty unusual card. But one of its abilities is to create, artifact creatures. And so that's friends with Karn, right? Like, it's just more artifacts for...
They even use the same token.
What do you think about Avia Pashery? It's
kind of like, I don't know, like I keep expecting to see some sort of a payoff. Like if you had like Mox Amber or Board the Weatherlight or the Weatherlight proper, or like something that can actually get historic cards from your void, or from like if your graveyard has some historic cards and you're using what's that 4-cost one? It's like whenever you play a historic card, Teshar, Ancestor's Apostle, whenever you cast a historic spell, return target creature card with a converted mana cost of 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield.
Yep.
Like, Ovina is, whatever her name is, or his name, like, it's great in the same turn. Like, if you play that and then use the trigger to get back a Gideon or something, like, that's dope. But, like, there are no Teshars in this deck.
Yeah, I think that this is not for me, this is not the green-white deck of choice. I think that we talked about 2 or 3 different green-white decks last week that are all more exciting to me than this. Like, that either push the envelope with regards to token production, were better Shalai decks, or, just... Like, I don't think this is like a random collection of cards. I'm not saying that. I just said, like, it's just not cohesive to me in any way that's super compelling relative to, what's the name of the enchantment that flips over into the Gaia's Cradle? That card is really an exciting card to play with Land Worlds. That card is really an exciting card to play with Servo Exhibition. It's like, and it's not. I've got 2 Sealaways and 2 Ixalan's Bindings and 2 completely orphaned Aethersphere Harvesters. To be honest, that's a good card. It's just not doing anything here that we're not getting.
It's not dying to Fumigate.
I mean, would you really rather have that card if you're in green? Would you rather have that card before you had Jadelight Ranger on 3? That's the question that I have, because this deck already has Karn, right? Like, if you want to play something else that's like not going to die to Fumigate, then like a powerful threat, like there are other threats you can play, and it's just fine. Like Like, that card, I think, shines the most against red aggro decks, but this deck doesn't really have problems with that. It could just, like, glut the board with Merfolk Branchwalkers, and it tops up on Lyra Dawnbringer. Like, red aggro is not the guy that you're terrified of. What I would say is I think that we're going to get to a point in the not-too-distant future where we see the green-white decks pairing Lyra Dawnbringer with Blossoming Defense, because how could you not? Like, the main thing you need to do is untap with the Lyra Dawnbringer, like, especially against... What's the new red roast that costs 3 but can deal 10? Like, if you're just, like, you know, take a turn off or whatever, you're like, all right, I have my Lyra Dawnbringer, or my second Lyra Dawnbringer. Let's say they got your first one. You've got a Blossoming Defense in your hand. I just don't see how you can lose. Like, that's it. Sorry, red deck. You had your shot. Like, as the red deck player, you don't get too many of those shots against the 5/5 lifelink angel.
Okay, dude. Here you go. I got one for you. What about us just brewing the Teshar Ancestors Apostle deck? Dude, Teshar Ancestors Apostle with Mox Amber? So, like, Teshar only gets back creature cards with converted mana cost 3 or less. So if you get back Workshop Assistant or Rona Disciple of Rona Disciple of Gix or whatever. So either one of those, if you've got, so you need to have Ancestors Apostle in play, Teshar in play, and then you cast a Mox Amber, and then you get back either your, if you get back your Workshop Apprentice, you then sack your Workshop Apprentice to whatever your sack outlet is, and then you get back Mox Amber, which you sacrificed, I guess.
Workshop Assistant, right? So
Workshop Assistant, right. It's easier if you have 2 Mox Ambers going, though, so you can, like, keep Legend ruling and keep getting one to die. But, like, there's so many ways, like Rona, or Rona just straight up, you don't even need the sack outlet there. I guess you still need a sack outlet to kill Rona off again, but...
So I don't know, it seems like a lot of fragile cards, but you need a ton of setup.
But, like, you don't have to actually draw or play them all, right? Because, like, let's say you've got nothing. You just drop to Shar and then a Mox Amber, and the Mox Amber gets back Rona or the Workshop Assistant, and then you just play the Workshop Assistant, or if you play either one will trigger the Historic again. I don't know. It just seems like you can, like, chain the pieces together, sort of like the Malira decks in Modern.
So what's the payoff? Like, do we have, like, some sort of thing that can either generate a ton of power, a ton of tokens, and a ton of +1/+1 counters, like a ping point every time? Because we can't just loop, right? We need to get some mana out of it.
Progress?
Yeah, I mean, like, otherwise you're just... infinite wheel spinning doesn't win the game.
If you have some triggers, like, for instance, you get infinite Historic triggers. So, like, I don't know, you can, like, I'm sure you can trigger something.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, what should it be, right? Like a Teshar itself is a pretty powerful trigger machine. But,
You also have... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, that's we tap the Mox Amber? How's that work?
You get infinite mana.
Okay. That'll do something. Then, once you have infinite mana, you can do something interesting. That's fine.
Yeah, like then at the end, instead of getting back Mox Amber, you get back Walking Ballista.
All right. That's game.
And I don't know. It seems like there's got to be some ways you can leverage all this for profit. But I don't know.
I don't know. I'll noodle on this one. Maybe we'll come back to it. But there are actually two things I wanted to go over before we broke for the week.
Sure.
One of them is Kevin Jones's deck.
Who?
Kevin Jones. Sorry. Daddy. I lied.
Daddy is home.
I lied horribly. Not Kevin Jones. I think it's Brendan DeCandio, actually. Sorry.
Oh, my boy. Yeah. Shout out to Brendan DeCandio.
So Brendan DeCandio played. Yes, it is Brendan DeCandio who did the thing. So he played a blue-white mid-range deck, right, with 3 Walking Ballista, 3 Lyra Dawnbringer, and 2 Shalai Voice of Plenty in the main deck. Is no way to. I was just like, oh man, he's got the Shalai Walking Ballista combo. No, he doesn't. He can't actually do that combo. He has no green mana in his deck or sideboard. But what he does have is the card Fall of the Thran, which, as we know, is a saga. Sagas are historic. Do you know what he has alongside this saga in his sideboard? Wrath Capuchin, Ship's Mage. I think that Brendan DeCandio may have accidentally in his sideboard ruined Standard. Because this is the worst thing I can think of actually being viable. Shout out to Brendan DeCandio. Thanks a lot, buddy. It was only week 2. What do you think about this combo? This is like the worst thing that could ever happen to us, right? Like,
I don't know. No, that sounds like hyperbole. I don't know. This sounds like a reasonable plan.
I mean, like, end of turn Armageddon, untap, get my lands back seems pretty insane to me.
But then your opponent is under the Armageddon for one less turn. They get their land back a turn earlier.
But, like, you still get yours back first.
You get them back at the same time.
Yeah, but you're using them. It's your turn.
And theirs are untapped. So they're actually making a profit on the mana. Because you Armageddon their tap lands, and then they come back into play immediately. Your opponent literally doesn't have a single turn of not having mana.
So you're saying Brennan did not ruin Standard?
I'm not saying that either.
So you realize that he did ruin Standard?
I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying that playing Fall of the Thran is like a reasonable piece of interaction for mana-hungry decks. Like, you need to have some way to stop him from just making you approach the second sun. And he doesn't have a ton of permission in here. He's got a little bit. I think it's an interesting angle of attack. I don't have enough experience with the strategy yet to know for sure if this is actually like, if it's pulling its weight, if it's better than any of the other options. I mean, it costs 6 instead of 5. It's a lot, but it's a sweet card. I don't think that flashing it down on my opponent's end step is like that's somehow the revolution.
Well,
that doesn't even sound good.
I think it seems great. We'll find out, I guess. But I always like to have a bazillion land in play. I think he's going to mess
with me. Then why are you playing Fall of the Thran?
No. As his opponent, I would like to have a lot of land.
Right, but why would he wait until your end step? Then you just have all your mana during your turn. What if instead of doing it during your end step, he did it during your upkeep? Or what if instead of letting you untap, what if he just did it during his own turn?
There are many questions to be answered here. Only the evolution of Standard will tell us. However, I did want to throw out, this is such a Zvi Moshowitz deck secretly. Zvi, he loves putting Heart of Kirin in decks. Like, decks that, like, you're like, that doesn't make any sense, Zvi. It's like, no, there's a Planeswalker in this deck. We should put Heart of Kirin in it. So,
dude, no. Dude, this is a great Heart of Kirin deck.
It is. It's just,
Shalay can crew that bad boy.
You know who else can crew this bad boy? Teferi, Karn's buddy, Gideon
Karn
himself.
Was born to crew this thing.
Oh man, this is a great Heart of Kirin deck. I think this is a cool deck.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this is a real smart evolution of the archetype, making it more proactive and just using more of the good cards, like making more use of History of Benalia. And I like Shalay in here. I gotta admit, I wouldn't hate being able to trigger it, but like you do need double green, so it's not trivial. So like I could live without triggering it too.
I think this is very, very good implementation of the strategy.
I think so too. Brandon's been on a tear, and I think this is a real smart evolution of the archetype.
And then the other thing I want to talk about is I actually spent some time myself this week testing that Tempest Djinn strategy that you laid out, the mono blue deck. I tested with the that new what's the come into play tap land that can sacrifice to draw 2 cards, and I tested with
the Memorial to Genius.
Yeah, and 1 copy of Field of Ruin in the main deck. Instead of all islands. It's shocking to me. I think like 1 match the Field of Ruin got an Arch Varazka that probably would have beaten me, but because I had it, I won. But I just got messed up over and over again having those cards in my deck. Like, I think I would have just done better with 25 islands.
Yeah, I think so too.
It was like shocking to me how much it mattered that I had these 2 off-island lands in my deck. Like, it was just like, ugh, my Tempest Djinn's a 2-power creature. Ugh, stinks. However, the innovation that you suggested of adding that Nimble Obstructionist was awesome. I flashed it in combat, and it helped to kill a main deck Carnage Tyrant. Separately, nice. I was shocked at how good Vizier of Many Faces is in the sideboard. It was unreal.
Oh, yeah. That's a known issue. That's a known issue.
Yeah, but there hasn't been like a tap-out blue control deck in Standard in a long time. I'm like, this is exactly all I ever wanted. I have their best thing, and then I have it again later, and I can play Protect the Queen because my deck is like 20 counterspells. Like, it's
not the worst to just copy your Djinn either.
No. I mean, I copied a lot of Carnage Tyrants. I got it just slows them down a lot because if they're just like they've got.
It sounds like you just played against Carnage Tyrant over and over again.
Well, if you're playing a mono blue deck, playing against Carnage Tyrant is not the most attractive thing to play against, and the fact that I was able to soundly defeat it repeatedly is a testament to Vizier of Many Faces,
or to the Djinn flying over the top.
Oh yes, I think that people underrate just I drew 2 Djinns, eat 14. Right? Like they're just like I didn't think that was going to happen, and they're just like
just 4, 10.
Yeah. I know kicker. Uh-oh.
Tell me about your next turn, buddy. How's that looking?
Yeah, that was and I mean, all those sideboard cards we talked about, River's Rebuke and Bolus's clutches were just all fantastic. But Vizier of Many Faces, my God, in a tap-out blue control deck, like whatever's there.
Do you want more? Do you want more than 2 copies?
I think I'm going to play 4. It's too good.
4?
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Then why don't you play 2 main deck?
I'll try that. But the slots are tight. The Obstructionist was sweet. The Glimmer of Genius came up a lot. The 1 Glimmer of Genius. So
yeah.
I thought the deck was fantastic, and I don't know. I think people should try it. It seems to me. Yeah, I'm obviously biased here, but it seemed to me just way better than any of the other strategies I've tried with the new Dominaria. But to be fair, the only other strategy that I've played significant number of games with is Lich's Mastery. But yeah, I don't know. I beat like all different kinds of decks with it, and I've not lost very much at all. So just throwing it out there. Here's the other thing. I beat goblins repeatedly, including like so many chain whirlers, which mattered because those guys have first strike, and I was just like, they have a chain whirler, and they just chain whirler again, and then attack into your Djinn. And you're just like, oh man, this is like more complicated than it seemed initially. But yeah, I was very surprised that I had a good win expectation against goblins, but once again, Vizier of Many Faces and River's Rebuke were awesome in that matchup. So just anything to buy time and trade a little bit against their mana so that you could set up your, 8-power flyers or whatever was very welcome.
Makes sense. I'm still playing Lich's Mastery.
Well, I love lots of the Dominaria cards. I just wanted to give an update on that because I was just honestly super shocked at how much the not islands mattered. I've never sacrificed a land for 2 cards, by the way. It's just never... I think it came up in 1 game, and you conceded before I could do it.
Well, I feel like we've all learned a valuable lesson here. I guess, man, we still have a couple more weeks before the PT, but I feel like this format's going to keep evolving. It'll be interesting to see what things look like after this upcoming weekend.
Have a good week, Patrick.
You too, Michael J.
Bye-bye.
Life didn't work so great. Tried to play dredge, it's a jailer hate. Ghostly prison waiting for my untapped phase. Your core trapped in amber stasis state. Lost a lot of friends, got left behind. Had to find a way not to lose my mind. Trapped in a vault with nothing but time. Parents and my friends were the key to find. Magic gave me purpose and drive. The game, the love, it kept me alive. Visions of better weather, light inside. To through the mirage, gotta survive.